do here, and then we continue with our division. The next step is to do now 2x squared divided by x, and we have here plus 2x. Now 2x squared, or 2x times x, we have 2x squared. 2x times negative 1, we have negative 2x. We can then subtract. Now as we're going to subtract, this minus will affect the minus that is inside. And here we're going to have a negative 2x. And then this becomes a plus 2x. Subtracting this, 2x minus 2x is 0. And minus 4x plus 2x is negative 2x. And then we bring down this plus 2. The next step then is to divide negative 2x by the expression, and we have that is minus 2x divided by x. In this case we have a 2, and negative 2 times, in this case x, we have minus 2x, and negative 2 times negative 1, it's a positive 2. Now always bearing in mind that we have a negative here because we're subtracting, and this negative will affect everything inside, and therefore here this becomes a plus, this negative and negative becomes a plus here, and this negative and that negative and that positive, this positive becomes a minus. So if we do negative 2x, the minus 2x is just 0, and plus 2 minus 2 is also 0. So we can see that then we have pretty much this expression that is here, x to the power 3 plus x to the power 2 minus 4x plus 2, can be factorized in this way, or can be divided in this way by having this x squared plus 2x minus 2 with that expression. So I can actually rewrite it here, this expression, which is x minus 1, and then this is what we we've got from the division. In this case, x squared plus 2x minus 2. I'm just gonna erase all this that is here. Alright, so we can see this expression then factors into this. Now, because we still have this equation, we can still see that this can be simplified further, or can be factorized further. Now, by looking at it, the way I can see, I don't really see another way we can factor this other than using a quadratic formula, because we don't really have terms here that are easy to factorize. So to simplify it further, then I'm going to use a quadratic formula. Now the quadratic formula is this. Pretty much it is x equals, I'm going to erase this as well. X equals, let me put on a different color, minus b plus minus the square root of b squared, in this case, minus 4ac. All this is divided by 2a. Now let me just put the x properly, because the x is equal to all these expressions, so it has to be in the middle. Now to find this, we need to then find the values of our equation. We equal it to 0. First of all, we have x squared plus 2x minus 2 equals 0. Now the reason we do this is because we're trying to factorize. The whole point is factorizing, and because now the terms are not so friendly for factorizing, and then we can use, as I said earlier, in math you simplify your problems to the lowest terms possible, and that can be done by any means that is applicable, which for as long as it's a mathematical way of doing it, you can apply. So we're going to use the quadratic formula in this case, because it's going to make our work a lot easier. Now this is, we need to find the values of a, B, and C. As you can see here in the formula, we have B, we have A, and we have C. So you can see A, B, and C. And these are actually values that are within the equation. Now the value of A is always the value that is adjacent to the first term with the highest exponent. In this case, x squared. It's got a value of 1. So we're going to write it down here. And the second value, which is B in this case, it's obviously the number that is adjacent to the variable x, which is now the second term, which is in this case is 2. And our fourth term is -2, which is C. So having this value, we can then solve our quadratic using this formula. So what we're going to do is just to plug in the values. X equals -b. In this case, we have the value of b, which is 2. So we're going to just plug in -2. Because the minus is already there, plus minus square root, in this case of b squared is 2, 2 squared. 2 squared minus 4, we did a it tells us it's 1. And then that is times c, which c is -2. So that's all under the umbrella of that square, over 2 times 1, because a is 1. So we're doing substitution here. And that gives us x equals, let's just, simplify this. -2 plus minus, now this the square root of 2 to the power of 2 is 4, minus 4, -4 times 1 is -4. So -4 times -2, it's +8. So plus 8. This over 2 times 1, it's 2. So we put a 2 over there. The next step then is to simplify further. So we have x equals, when we have this, it's -2 plus minus square root of 4 plus 8. In this case, it is 12. So it's the square root of 12 over 2. So simplifying it further, this gives us x equals -2 plus minus. Now, what happens is we have a 12. We need to find a way to describe this square root, because what happens is this doesn't give us a perfect square root. For example, when you have a 16, square root of 16 is 4. It's not really the same with 12, because it's going to give us a decimal number, and we don't want, we can have decimals, but let's just, put it into whole numbers. So here, we can have the square root of 12 can actually be simplified by having the square root of 4, because 4 times 3 makes 12. So that's another way we can write the square root of 12. This over 2. So we're going to continue here, and this gives us, simplifying that, now the square root of 4 is just 2. So we can put here that this is -2 plus minus, in this case I'm going to put 2 instead of 4, times square root of 3 over 2. Now, the next step is, I'm trying to simplify this further. So I'm going to try to simplify, because all of them, like we have a 2 here, a 2 and a 2 on, as a denominator. So they can actually be divisible by 2. And that's what I'm going to do. I'll continue on this side. So we're going to have here x equals -2 plus minus 2 square root of 3. Now let me just divide all that by 2, divided by 2, divided by 2. And we have 2 here also. And I'm also going to divide it by 2. So what we have, I'll erase this now because we already know the context. We're moving this side. Now, so what we have here is x equals, when we have 2 and 2 divided by, -2 divided by 2, it's -1, plus minus 2 divided by 2 is 1, and then the square root remains, which is a 3. 2 divided by 2 is 1. That means that the values of x, in this case, the solution, I'm going to write here solution. So the values of x can be, so x can be, now if I'm going to plug that into, just write in the values, now that means that I have x can be minus 2 plus 1 minus 2, oh minus 1, sorry, plus 1 and the square root of 3. That's one value of x. Or another value of x can be as well. Now minus 1 in this case, because you see plus minus, it means you can use either plus or minus. So I can use 1 minus 1, the square root of 3. And the final value of x can also be 1, because remember we have factorized it from the beginning, x minus 1. So that is the final value of, in this case, of x. I'm going to write it here. I don't have enough space. I'll just put it very small here. X equals, in this case, 1. So those are the three values of x. So if I can put them all up here as the solution. So the values of x will be, so x will be 1, also minus 1 plus 1 in the square root of 3, also minus 1 minus 1 and the square root of 3. And those will be the values of our equation. And I hope it's a little bit clear. Thank you.